Castlevania Dracula X was originally released on the Super NES way back in 1995, and it has a reputation of being a butchered port of the incredible Castlevania Rondo of Blood on the PC Engine, which I've actually reviewed in the past for those that are interested. Just go to the PC Engine / TurboGrafx-16 playlist and enjoy. So let me get this out of the way right away. This isn't an awful game. It's just not as robust or interesting as Rondo. It doesn't feature multiple playable characters, it only has a few branching paths instead of a ton like Rondo did, and it features an altered art style, and obviously doesn't have the same audio-visual presentation as the CD-based Rondo of Blood. But all that said, this is certainly a game Castlevania fans should check out if for no other reason than to experience the differences between Rondo and Dracula X for themselves. Being released after Super Castlevania 4, many Castlevania fans were shocked to discover that using the sub-weapon had reverted back to up and the action button in order to activate, instead of it being the L or R button like in Castlevania 4. I don't remember which one it was. There was a new move Richter had access to called the Item Crash, which was a very powerful move that used these sub-weapons to sort of do a screen clearing attack. And that was mapped to its own button, but overall it just felt that the controls were a step back compared to the legendary Castlevania 4. And this is not even to go into the whip, which was a huge disappointment for a lot of fans, because the multi-directional whip was gone, replaced with the standard whip from the original 3 Castlevania games on the NES. And the difficulty was also upped quite significantly from Castlevania 4, bringing back all those cheap deaths that fans either loved or loathed. And as a matter of fact, the last boss battle against Dracula is one of the most challenging boss battles you will ever face in any video game. It's crazy hard. Jumps also feel really stiff like they did back in the NES days, and the controls as a whole just don't feel quite as fluid or responsive as they did in Castlevania 4. So again, many fans felt that this was like a step back. However, taken as a whole, I think it still holds up well today if you understand where it comes from. This was based on a PC Engine game where the controller only had 2 buttons, so they really mimicked the original 3 Castlevania games in its overall design, and for that it does work well. It depends on what your mind frame is. It'll either feel dated or you'll understand where this was going. The level design works well enough, but once you compare it to Rondo of Blood, you'll see that there's really no comparison. You see, in that game, if you accidentally were pushed back off a platform and you seemingly fell to your death, you might actually discover that, hey, look at that, there's a stage underneath the one I was playing, and now this will lead to a new branch, which will lead to another maybe playable character, or someone else, one of these other girls that you had to rescue, or what have you. But here, falling through a pit 99% of the time means you're dead. Visually, the game looks quite nice for a Super Nintendo game released in 1995. The sprites have been mostly ripped directly from the PC Engine game, although the levels are almost all reworked and the backdrops are mostly new. They're a mixed bag most of the time, with some looking quite nice thanks to some great special effects and animations, while others look really dated or boring and drab, a lot of grays, a lot of browns, things like that. The audio, though, is another story altogether. While the CD soundtrack from Rondo of Blood naturally couldn't be matched on a cart, it's pretty incredible what the developers were able to do here. In fact, some of the tunes on this cart are my favorite in the entire series. The Stage 1 track in particular is fantastic, as are the renditions of Bloody Tears and Vampire Killer. If you enjoy Castlevania music, be sure to give this one a listen to, as you'll most likely be surprised at just how good the soundtrack is. Overall, Castlevania Dracula X isn't as good as Rondo of Blood, but it's still a fun game that Castlevania fans should check out. Just don't get too frustrated by the cheap deaths and overall difficulty. The game is currently available on the Wii U Virtual Console, and Rondo of Blood is available on the Wii Virtual Console. So if you have access to a Wii U, You have the option of trying out both games and you can compare for yourself. Or, if you're truly hardcore, you can go and hunt down the original games on the respective platforms.